Hello, welcome to Curiosity, Creativity and Beyond. Look at this amazing bug. What is this? This is a mantis, a praying mantis. And it's a preserved specimen, and that's why it's pinned to this foam. I tilted a little bit so we could see all the bits and pieces before we start drawing it. Look at this part here, that very long part covered with wings. That's going to be the abdomen. This long piece here that is very thin, that is the thorax. And then, yeah, that tiny piece there, that's the head. Look at that big eye, one on each side. And coming from the thorax, these two big four legs, and oh man, they are very interesting looking. I cannot wait to start drawing it. They have these amazing hairs and these amazing spines because they grab their prey with them. And then they have two other legs on each side. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So 6 legs in total, 2 on each side for walking. The 2 in the front are specialized for just gripping the prey and don't let them escape. Because this is a preserved specimen, it's dry and it has lost some of the volume that we would see in nature. So we're going to use this as a reference and we're going to add a lot of life into our praying mantis. Shall we start? So today I'm going to use, as always, a non-photo blue pencil, a 2B graphite pencil. I really like it because it doesn't scratch the paper and it doesn't smudge, an eraser, and my sharpener. So, as I said, we're going to use our specimen as a reference, but we're going to infuse him with a lot of life. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I have enough space on the paper because it's a very long insect. And as you notice, we distinguish the parts, the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. So I'm just going to start by making a curved line because this is how I would see her in nature, this praying mantis. After I have done this line, I'm going to make a tiny circle for the head. The next part is going to be the thorax. And I see here in my specimen that the thorax has 2 parts, one that is tiny and then the longest one. So I'm just going to make sure I have the tiny one around here and then the rest, I think around here. That would be good. Yeah, or even shorter. I'm eyeballing right now. And I notice that it's a little bit thinner in the middle and thicker here at the end. These are details that I will add more in graphite, but I'm just having a blueprint right now. And it's color blue, so hey, how practical, how convenient. And then the abdomen. And the abdomen in real life is going to be curvy and is going to have volume. And one thing we need to be mindful with preserved specimens is because they're dry and they may have been in a box for many decades. Some of the bits and pieces might even get lost or damaged, or they might have lost the color. In this case, the abdomen has lost a little bit of the volume. So it's great to be able to have the specimen, and we're going to use it as a reference, but we're going to also add a little bit of volume to the abdomen. So we see the wings that are on top of the abdomen. So we are going to draw them as if we had X-ray vision, seeing through and following that shape of the abdomen. And I can see at least 2 wings. So when we are talking about a one mantis, we write it like this, but when we are talking about several, we say more than one is a mantises. And they're insects. And they are relatives with cockroaches, with termites. They're like cousins. I'm going to write that down. They're relatives. They're related to cockroaches and termites. And guess what? They have these very, very specialized forelegs that are very sturdy and very specialized in catching prey. So we're going to draw them here. They come from the thorax, right where this thorax divides in these two pieces. So they're going to come from here. And they have different segments. So the first segment, it's very long and it has kind of this shape. That is called coxa. The next piece that articulates with the coxa is the thickest one. And it has this kind of triangular shape. And you're going to see this clearly in graphite in a second. This is the femur. And guess what? We have femurs too, humans. If you touch your upper leg, the bone in there is a femur. So we have something in common with the mantis. The femur has all these spikes. I can see them here. All these spikes and spines. I'm going to suggest them now, but I definitely want to add those with the graphite. The next segment, it's also curvy. It's a little bit thinner, especially at the end. It ends in a very pointy end. And that is the tibia. And the difference between other insects and the mantis is that the last piece, the foot, comes from here. And it's made of tiny bones, tiny pieces that are triangular with one last long triangle and the tarsal claws. So that is going to be the foot, also called tarsi. And these little two pieces here are the tarsal claws. And this is very important. This is very different from beetles and other insects. And then don't forget these amazing spines, because guess what? That's where the prey is going to be grabbed. It's going to close. Like in the specimen here, it's going to close, and poor little arthropod within their reach. Poor little one. Because once a mantis has catch her prey, that is it. So that's the leg, and they have two. One here and one in the back. I think if I have time, I will add the other one, but for now, I'm just gonna. So this is the foreleg, and it has two. And then the other legs in the back is just for locomotion. They're gonna come at the very end of the thorax, so right here. They don't come from the abdomen, even though it might seem like it. They all attach to the thorax. And they're much more simple, even though they have the same names. Coxa, femur, and tibia, and then the foot. Even though they have the same names, they're much thinner and they are less threatening as these ones. It's also interesting how the back ones have much longer femur, and I wonder if that is because they like to jump. That's something I would need to read about, because it reminds me of a grasshopper or a bush cricket. So we're just drawing half of the legs. One hind leg, one middle leg, and one foreleg. So we have in real life 2 hind legs, 2 middle legs, and 2 forelegs. And I'm going to switch now to my graphite. So the last thing I want to add is the face. If we were to look at a mantis right eye to eye, we would see the 2 eyes and then a very interesting head shape, like a triangle. These 2 eyes on the side, and then the mouth parts at the bottom, and the top of the head like this. The antenna would come from here. So let's draw 2 antenna. 1 and 2. Look in this specimen how long these antennae are. And then we would see a tiny dot. That is a pseudo pupil. So it's not a real pupil like the ones that we have in our eyes. So that's why it's called pseudo. It's almost like a pupil. It looks like a pupil, but it's not a pupil. These eyes are called compound eyes. And that's because they're made of tiny, 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 tiny eyes. But you might think, oh, only 2 eyes? No, the mantis have 3 more eyes on the top of the head, so they can see from the top. So in total, we have 5 eyes. Isn't that practical? So if we were to see the mantis from the front, and you are very lucky to encounter a mantis face to face, this is how it would look like, with a very triangular shape. That face looks very interesting. Kind of a little bit of a curvy but flat top of the head, and then all the mouth parts. Look at that face. So that is if we were seeing it from the front. The one that we're drawing, it's much smaller, and she's kind of looking us a little bit from profile. So for this reason, the eye, one of the eyes, we would see it totally. But the other eye would be behind the head. And yes, we would still see that triangular shape, head and the mouth parts, but because it's on profile with a little bit of a tilt, we would see it like this. And she's kind of giving us a look, or maybe she's looking that way. We don't know. I'm going to also add the little antenna. So this is a front view, and this is the 3/4 front view. I know, it's a very fancy name. So let's continue, shall we? So after the head, we have the thorax with this very interesting division here that coincides where the forelegs come out, and then we continue here. It has a tiny bump there, and then where it joins the abdomen. Underneath the neck, underneath the thorax, sorry, there would be a little bit of the body that we would see as well. And then we would see how these coxa joins the thorax. I'm just going with my graphite pencil, and how the coxa articulates or joins with the femur that has so many spines. So many spines. So many spines. As well as the tibia. All these very, very pointy spines. The tibia ends in this pointy end. And just as a reminder, this is what makes a mantis a mantis, is how the foot attaches a little bit on the top of the tibia with these triangular pieces that end in the tarsal claws. So this is really cool, and these actually are called tibial spines, with tibial spines. And yeah, and that's, yeah, I again, the prey is gonna be here. So if you are the prey, it's not your lucky day. So let's continue with the thorax. It has like almost like an armor looking like, and there's a little bit of the body underneath, because it's like a, yeah, it looks like an armor. It looks like an armor, and I guess that's what the mantis wants, is to be a little bit protected, because yeah, they eat, you know what, they eat all sorts of arthropods, but they can also be food for other animals. So they have to also protect themselves a little bit. So I'm just drawing all the pieces of the leg and then the foot. And I'm going to put some photos, close-up photos, so you can see all the bits and pieces up close. This is the abdomen, and because the leg is on top, I'm going to start drawing the leg first. I can see that the end is a little bit thicker, and this part is a little bit thicker too, and then it thins and then it thickens again. That's what's so useful, to have a preserved specimen. And then the last piece, and the tiny foot with the pieces and the tarsal claws. The last piece I'm going to draw, because the wings are on top, I'm going to start with the wings. Look at that. They're almost transparent. I can see through them. I'm going to start with this one. And then I'm going to do the one in the back. And they all joined right here. And then the body, as I said before, if this was a live specimen, we would see the abdomen segmented, which I can see here a little bit, but it has lost, because it's dehydrated, it's dried. I had lost all that volume. So, oh my goodness, guess what the mantises can do with their heads? Because they love looking around, right? Well, guess what? The head can rotate 180 degrees. I'm going to try to explain it to you using my eraser. Imagine that this is the mantis, and this is the neck of the mantis, and she is looking away, and you are a predator and you think you can eat the mantis, right? Well, guess what? She can turn her head and look at you and haha, you're not going to eat me. So they can rotate their head 180 degrees without moving a single part of their rest of their bodies. That is amazing. There's also another really cool name for the foreleg. Raptorial foreleg. And that sounds very dinosaur, raptor. There's also something very interesting about mantises, and they do this thing called camouflage. And what camouflage means is that they can change their color to resemble either leaves or the bark on the trees or flowers. And that way, a frog or a lizard, even a bird or a spider will not be able to find them. So some have appendices, some have like this, for example, these wings. They kind of look like leaves with all the veins. And I'm going to start adding some color. I think my mantis today is going to be green. So I'm going to start adding a little bit of color. And I like to hold my pencil a little bit like this, so I can give it a little bit of an overall tone before I press a little bit harder. And yeah, all the mantis is going to be this color because I have decided, oh, I think I forgot a little bit of the body here. I have decided that my mantis wants to sit on a green bush, so she doesn't want to be found. You can color your mantis as you wish. They come in all different colors, even the head. So I'm just going to start very, very, very light. And not all mantises have wings. But in this case, this one has. And actually, these are very long wings. So that's why I know this in particular is a Macroptero. And Macropterus means literally big, long wings. So now that I gave an overall green tone, I'm going to press a little bit harder and I'm going to add some areas of shadow. For example, the body underneath, that's going to be a little bit darker. And here, I'm going to add a little bit of dark here under the wing, but not in all body, just a little bit there and maybe a little bit here. But I'm going to leave an area here that is a little bit lighter green. Oh, and guess what? Mantises, they like to bluff. So when they feel attacked, they first try to make them look as big as they are. So they extend their forelegs and they try to look as big as possible. So a predator is like, oh, I might not mess up. I might not mess up with that big mantis. But if the predator is not impressed, they pinch. Get out of here. Get out of here. I am not your dinner. And if that doesn't work, if the predator is very hungry, guess what the mantis does? They hiss. So I'm just going to add a water balloon here. Hiss. They produce this hissing sound. And that probably will scare the predator away. So those are the 3 stages that the mantis uses to defend herself. Here, when I come to the thorax, I'm just going to leave a little bit of highlight there. As you can see, I'm using just the same green. I'm just adding some shadows where I think the light might not be reaching out. And the head, one thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of shadow around the eye, just the bottom there, and the mouth parts, and a little bit here where the eye meets the rest of the head. And suddenly, by doing that, I just made a very three-dimensional, because these eyes are spheres. The same here. If I add a little bit of shadow here, and then here, and kind of fading away to the top, and look how I'm leaving a little bit of light there. And then where the eye meets the rest of the head. This way, what I'm doing is I'm creating, with lights and shadows, a very three-dimensional shape. Because it's not flat, it has 3 dimensions. So now I have a very interesting shape with light and shadow. One other thing I really want to add is a little bit of yellow, because I think this mantis has this nice color green that I don't have, but I can make it with whatever colors I have around. It's just to give it a little bit of a nice greenish tone. Also, one thing I want to do here, all the segments of the abdomen, I want to also add a little bit of dark here. But especially in the wings, I want to draw the veins of the wings with my color pencil. I'm not going to draw every single line that I see, but I see that there's some lines, and if I do this with the graphite pencil, they might look too dark, and I see that some of them are tinier and some of them are very big. And I think these are called veins. So we have more things in common with this mantis, because guess what? We also have veins. The blue lines that you see, those are veins too. So there you go. We have in common a lot of things with the mantis. So now I have a mantis that is, let's draw a little bit of, I don't know, I think she's sitting on a bush, and the bush is exactly the same color as the mantis. These leaves are the exact same color. She has mastered the art of camouflage. So no one actually can see her. I'm gonna also color the antenna, which are very long, longer than what I have drawn. And one thing I want to do, at least my specimen, is to measure it. It's like 6 centimeters long. So I'm just gonna write that my specimen was 6 centimeters long, because I want to make sure I include all that information in the drawing. And if you've lost some of your lines, you can go back with a graphite pencil. And you know what? I'm going to also experiment and add a little bit of brown to make it more interesting. And also in the legs, especially when they come out of the underneath the abdomen, I want to add a little bit of dark, especially that one. Yeah. And here, yeah, why not? And then, yeah, why not? A little bit of brown here and here. So this is very cool. I hope you had a lot of fun